and welcome to this ANSYS Space Claim reverse engineering tutorial on the skin surface tool, changing options and some advanced patching techniques. If you haven't already, go to File, Open, browse to where you downloaded the file. If you don't see it there, the file filter is probably set to Space Claim files. You just want to change that to all files and then open up this bottle.stl. So if we take a look, we obviously have a scan of what looks like a detergent bottle. Pretty complex geometry. The only thing on the top that's really simple is this cylinder up here, but that's not the concern. The concern is the geometry around here. So we're going to take a look at using some periodic and some boundary patches in conjunction with each other and how we can join them up. So let's start by putting some of the easy things in. So we'll go to the Insert tab and turn on the Skin Surface tool. If you're not familiar with these techniques to do a periodic patch or a boundary patch, please check out the additional tutorials we have on our webpage. For the handle here, I'm going to create a periodic patch. I'm going to select a number of points going around the perimeter here. You could always insert in a plane if you want, but I'm just going to go ahead and pick some points. So I'm going to put one towards the bottom of the handle, and then we'll do one up here towards the top of the handle. So just picking a number of points going all the way around. Come back here and then to the first one. So here we have this preview. Now, one thing I want to mention are the options for the tool. So let's take a look at that real quick. Notice there's an option for number of samples. This has a range of 10 to 100. There's even a little slider here. We have a smoothing option and a full preview. So by default, full preview is off. And what does that mean? It means that no matter what you set the samples to, this matrix is always going to look the same. It's about 25 or 30 samples. If I turn on full preview, it's now going to actually use the number of samples that I have entered as the preview. So we can see 50 is far denser than the default preview. The minimum you can make it is 10. Let's take a look at what that looks like. Looks like something like this. And the maximum you could do is 100. Now, on some geometry, 100 may not preview. On some geometry, 100 won't be able to compute. On here, it can, but also be aware that with 100 samples shown, any edits are going to take far longer. Like if I wanted to take this point and drag it, you could already see the preview really starting to stutter to move around there. If I undo that back, and I switch to, let's say, 10 samples. So here, it's harder to see the 10 samples. They are actually moving up and down. Let me make this maybe 30. With 30 samples, you can actually see them moving now, but notice it is far more responsive than 100 samples. So the biggest tip that I can make with samples, do not turn it up until you're ready to hit the check mark. If you plan on changing your boundary at all, you either want to keep the full preview off, that way you show the default of 25 or 30 samples, or if you have full preview on, you just want to keep the samples low if you're going to make any adjustments, and then turn up the samples and click the check mark. Smoothing, you won't see any change on the preview, but for smoothing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over the tool. It says to press F1 for more help, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. Press F1 for more help, and let me just go ahead and bring this window in. So right now our help is web-based, which makes it very easy to update for people. And let's just go ahead and see what the smoothing option does. So I'm going to scroll down, and here it says smooth. The quality and density of the mesh can affect the quality of the surface you create. The smooth option uses an algorithm to smooth out the noise in the surface, removing these bumpy surfaces. So let's go down and see an example. Here, a patch was taken across the eyes. On the left, smooth was on and set to 100. On the right, smooth was off. Notice that you can see far more definition of the eye area in the area where smoothing is off. And here where smoothing is on, you don't see that hard definition. So if you have a noisy scan and you want to remove any of those bumps and have it be a lot smoother, you want to have the smoothing option on. If you want as much definition and as close to the mesh as possible, you either want to turn smoothing off or just reduce that percentage value. But so samples is based on the number of data points that it picks within the boundary, and smoothing is how much of the bumps it removes, and full preview is whether you see the default of I think it's 25 samples, or whether or not you actually see the correct number of samples shown. So just wanted to quickly go over those options, and with them set, 30 is good. Let's go ahead and click the check mark. So now we've got that surface there. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a patch on the side. And the typical workflow when doing something like this is you want to do the biggest surfaces first, and then the smaller ones you're going to create between the large ones. So let's go ahead and create one on the bottle here. So I'm going to start by picking a point here, and notice that I'm not zooming in. I'm not really caring right now where I put these points. Also notice let me undo that. I meant to do a double click here. I'm also not putting in any control points. I am basically just putting in my overall boundary. So I'm going to do one there, I'm going to do one here, and I'm just going to come straight back to there. So now I've got this preview. From here, what I like to do is start to drag on this. The reason for this is you may not realize just how many control points you need. Typically, you want to have as few as possible. So instead of picking one here and going pick one, pick one, pick one, where you may get kind of a zigzaggy line, it's far better to start with straight lines. And when you need to change where they are, drag them around. So, this, maybe I want a little more curvature. Let's drag this one over here. Down here, I definitely want some more curvature. So maybe I'll pick one there and put one over here. It's starting to not like the preview. So I may need to bring these in, or I may even need to select one and delete. So as I delete these, we're starting to get a better preview. And if I want to try to adjust those, I can. So here I'm just going to come in and make these adjustments where I need to. Maybe grab that one, bring it down here. Maybe grab this one, bring it that way. So here you can see that I'm building up using the least amount of points necessary. You'll get a better result that way. And I do that by putting in my vertices first, and then putting in my control points next. So, this looks pretty good. Maybe I'll drag that one over there. So looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and click the check mark. Now, I may want to build up from here. So I may start on this endpoint. Maybe I'll do one that goes to here. Here, it's looking pretty bad. So maybe I will start with a control point there. And then maybe we'll put a hard vertice there, and then we'll come right back in. And from here, that actually doesn't look too bad. So we may want to bring this up a little bit, or that over here, wherever we want that to go. And I'm going to go ahead and click the check mark. So now I've got two here. On the opposite side, I'm going to do something similar, but a little different. I'm going to try to do it in one surface or patch. So I meant to double click there, and I'm going to come all the way up at the top, double click there, and then we'll put one there. And I definitely have to at least put a few control points there. Here, a little zigzag, so we'll just drag that up, and now it fits nice and clean. And I think for all intents and purposes, this should be good enough to move on. So let's just put in a couple more, changing the curvature just a little bit to fit right to the model. All right, so now we've got that surface there. So let's go ahead and click the check mark and finish that up. So, now we've got this surface and these two surfaces. Now, if I go ahead and hide our mesh just to see what we have, we've got the two sides and the handle, and there's a number of different things we can try to connect them up. If I turn on the select geometry tool and I select this edge and then this edge, it's going to give us that patch going across them. So without drawing any lines, I get this nice boundary here. If I want to make any adjustments to how they're connected, I could always drag. So maybe I want to drag this one down, or maybe I just want that surface to stop here. So I could always add additional control points to that. On the back here, maybe we'll do something similar. Maybe we'll grab this one, drag that down some amount. And this might be an area where I want more samples. Here, I don't really have enough samples to go across the top. Here, if I turn this up to 50, it's getting closer. Let's see what 100 samples looks like. So now fitting way tighter to the top. Now, I'm really pushing the limits here. You might argue this should be done in a couple different shots, but I'm personally a little lazy and I like to push the boundaries of these tools. So let's see about that surface. One thing to mention while this is computing is that with more samples, it will take longer to compute. Also, with more samples, the surface may tend to be a little wavier because it's really conforming to that geometry. So you may find that with higher samples, you may not be able to pull and thicken or use it to cut into a body. But here it looks like it made a pretty good surface fitting to that geometry. So let's just turn this back down from 100. We don't want to have that preview every time.